Assalamu alaikum everyone. क्या हाल है आप लोगों के? How is everyone's prep? Just a minute. करते हैं start. I wasn't able to attend yesterday's. Would it matter? No, not really. In yesterday's class we did some past paper questions. In today's class also we're gonna do some past paper questions. Acha, what else, sir? Can we get a joke? Yeah, go ahead. If you have a joke, go ahead. Sir, could you cover algebraic probability questions, O-levels? Algebraic probability questions? What do you mean? Are you talking about those that lead to, could you solve functions from February, March 2025? Yeah, sure, I'll do that. I do actually plan on doing that. I do plan on solving the February, March 2025 functions question. Anyway, so let's start. And let me see what it is that we did yesterday. So yesterday we did some past paper questions, like I said. In today's class also I plan on doing some past paper questions. So yeah, let's start. Here we go. So I'll start with some of those questions that involve the use of graph, like perhaps not this question, but perhaps this question. Yeah, okay. Now, so let's see what this question says. This is question number 45. I would encourage you guys to download the PDF. You'll find a link to it in the description. So make sure that you have this PDF, and whatever questions we solve in class, the rest of the questions, whatever questions we don't solve, you guys can do those questions as practice. ठीक हो गया? Acha, so let's start. This is question number 45 of this PDF. Yeah, you can watch this stream without watching yesterday's stream. In both the streams, we are covering past paper questions, okay? So let's see what this says. It says the function f is defined by f of x equals to 2 upon x squared plus 4 for x is less than 0. The diagram shows the graph of y is equals to f of x. On this diagram, sketch the graph of y is equals to f inverse of x. Show any relevant middle line. Now, lately I've noticed this, that the question has asked to, asks to draw a middle line. So don't get confused. Remember, f and f inverse are basically reflection of one another along the line y equals to x, okay? And you're making a sketch at the end of the day, so that means your graph should look like a reflection, should genuinely look like it's a reflection along the line y equals to x. Achha, also one thing to keep in mind, if this is in the second quadrant, that means after you reflect it, it's going to be in the third quadrant, okay? And remember, they should look like mirror images. So here, this you can say is a horizontal asymptote, whatever this value turns out to be, okay? So the same, now you will have, after you reflect it, now you will have a vertical asymptote, okay? So that's how it works basically. So nothing complicated. It's not like you need points and stuff like that. You just have to make sure that your graph, the inverse, looks like a reflection along the line y equals to x. It's really as simple as that. So let's draw that. Let's see what do we end up with. So we end up with something like this. There you go. Let's just make a nice and neater version. Yeah, that's slightly better. Okay, now, Acha, also I didn't mention it. I would appreciate if you guys like the stream and subscribe to the channel. Now, next part. If you haven't done that yet already. Find an expression for f inverse of x. Okay, so how do we find f inverse? same rules. First, let's make f of x equals to y. So y is equals to 2 upon x square plus 4. Then step by step, let's make x the subject. So y minus 4 upon 2 is equals to x square. And then what do? We take the square root on both sides. When you take the square root on both sides, remember you're dealing with a plus minus. So x is equals to plus minus y minus 4 upon 2. Okay, so what does the inverse look like? F inverse of x is equals to, now question for you guys, are we going to go with the plus sign or are we going with the minus sign? Plus minus square root of x minus 4 upon 2. Walaikum salam. So could you please do coordinate geometry and integration? Yeah, I do. So the next couple of days, inshallah, I'll be doubling down on AS streams. So don't worry about that. Okay. Yeah, we're going to go with the minus sign. That's clear, because if you look at the graph of inverse, you can see that it's all on the negative side. Okay, you can see that y is all negative. So that means we're not going to go with the plus sign. Nope, we're not going to go with the plus sign. We're going to go with the minus sign. Okay, or you can use plan B also. If you find yourself confused, you can use plan B. I hope everyone remembers plan B. If you don't, just go back, watch yesterday's stream and figure it out yourself. Okay. Now, part C, solve f of x equals to 4.5. Notice that it's a 1 mark question and you're not even given a lot of space. So f of x equals to 4.5. That means 2 upon x square plus 4 is equals to 4.5. Now, it's interesting to note that we're not given a lot of space. Okay, I think I know why you're not given a lot of space. Reason why you're not given a lot of space is because you can actually use the inverse function as well. Okay, so if you take f across the equals to sign, so that would be f inverse of 4.5. Let's solve it this way and let's see if we can do it that way also. So once again, step by step, let's make x the subject. So this would be 2 upon x square is equals to 0.5, because that's what 4.5 minus 4 is. And 2 upon 0.5 means 2 divided by half means 4. And what's x equal to? Although is equals to plus minus 2, but which value are we going to go with? We're only going to go with, since it says x is less than 0, so the value that we're going to go with is minus 2. So x equals to minus 2. That's the answer. Okay. Can you explain part A? Yeah, sure. So in part A, all you're supposed to do is you're just supposed to reflect this along the line y equals to x. That's it. So take every point, reflect it along the line y equals to x. That's all I've done. Can we ask for extra sheet? Yes, you can. You can totally ask for extra sheets, and whatever extra sheet that you take, make sure that you give it. Make sure that you write your name and everything on it. Okay, now, part D. Part D says, explain why f inverse of x and f of x has no solution. So this question, why did we go with the negative sign? Well, because if you look at the inverse function, what do you see? All the y values are negative. And another way to think about it is this. What is the domain of f? The domain of f is x is less than 0, which means f inverse of x has got to be less than 0 as well. So if f inverse of x is less than 0, that means the only way that's possible is to have a minus sign outside. Okay, now, explain why f inverse of x equals to f of x has no solution. Reason why they don't have any solution is because one is always positive and the other is always negative. It's as simple as that. No need to complicate it. Okay, one is always positive and the other is always negative. So that's the reason why they don't have a solution. So reason is that f inverse of x is always less than 0 for all values of x, and f of x, so f of x is always greater than 0 for all values of x. I mean, you can simply use logic also to answer this question, because here this graph that you see is basically the graph of f of x. This graph that you see is basically the graph of f inverse of x. Do you foresee a solution? Do you think there will be a solution? Why? Because here is the graph of f of x, here's the graph of f inverse. Do you see a solution? Of course not. It's not possible to have a solution. Solution means point of intersection. Do you see that happening? Of course not. That's why we say that, and the reason why we don't is because one is always greater than 0 and the other is always lesser than 0. So that's it. But why does it say x is less than 0? Why does it say x less than 0? That makes it negative. No. X is less than 0. Okay, but the end result, we're talking about the y values. The y values will always be positive. Okay, x less than 0 है, लेकिन जो overall y value आएगी, वो तो हमेशा positive होगी. ठीक है? Anyway, so that was one question. I hope it's clear. Let's have a look at another question. I think this seems like a nice question. Let's see what this says. So it says, find an expression for f inverse of x. One more question. Let's see how we can solve this. So y is equals to square root of x minus 1. Let's step by step make x the subject. Y plus 1 is equals to square root of x. Y plus 1, the whole thing square, equals to x. And the final step, that is f inverse of x is equals to x plus 1, the whole thing square. Sir, can you please explain the rule to determine whether the inverse will be negative or positive? Okay, I'll explain that. Dekho, here's the rule. Look at the domain of f. It's less than 0, correct? The domain of f must be equal to the range of f inverse. How would you make sure that the end result of this is less than 0? How would you make sure of that? Would you make sure of that by keeping a plus sign? No. You would make sure of that by keeping a minus sign outside the root. Okay, so that's one way. And then in the other class, I explained plan B. Okay, plan B thoda lengthy hai. In the last stream, I explained plan B, but plan B is also something that works. So I'll go over it again. Okay, सिर्फ इसलिए कि आप लोगों के एग्जाम्स करीब हैं. So I'll explain plan B. Now, anyone who remembers plan B? Plan B is this, that pick a value which is inside the domain of f and plug it in f. So for example, let's plug in minus 1. Okay, so let's see what is f of minus 1. बेटा एड मैथ के फंक्शंस भी करा दूंगा. एड मैथ्स में अभी टाइम है, आप चिल करें, आप जाके अभी एड मैथ्स पढ़ें, इधर अपना टाइम ना ज़ाया करें. Okay, so f of minus 1, let's plug in minus 1, let's see what do we get. So 2 times minus 1, the whole thing square plus 4, so what do we get? 2 upon minus 1 squared, that's equal to 2 upon 1, and 2 plus 4, that's equal to 6. Will there be any M1 classes today? No, there will be no M1 class today. Okay, so f of minus 1 equals to 6. That means f inverse of 6 should be equal to minus 1. Correct? F inverse of 6 should be equal to minus 1. अब आप एक काम ही करें, you plug in 6 in the inverse function. Okay, now this is supposed to be done in a calculator. I'm doing this right now so that you guys can see the working behind, but if you do this in a calculator, it's not going to take you a lot of time. Now, which value do you think will give you minus 1 as the result? Will it be the positive square root of 6 minus 4 upon 2, which by the way is equal to 1. 6 minus 4 is 2, 2 upon 2 is 1. So which value will give you minus 1? Is it the positive square root of 1 or is it the negative square root of 1? What do you think? S1 stream, I will stream S1. I'm doubling down on P1. Why? Because P1 exams are close. Okay. So the answer is minus. And there you go. That's the reason why we're going to go with the minus sign and not a plus sign. Okay. So I hope that's clear. So just learn this once and for all so you don't have to get stuck or you don't have to be confused. Anyway, now let's come back. The diagram shows the graph y is equals to g of x. So whoever asked, किसने पूछा था? I don't know, but whoever asked, I hope it's clear now. The diagram shows the graph of y is equals to g of x, where g of x equals to so and so. State the range of g and explain whether g inverse exists. Transformation, inshallah, tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm doing transformation. So logically we applied minus because it was, yeah, that's what we did. Okay, so you have to, see the thing about functions is you can't just rely on a formula, you can't just rely on simple tricks and expect to solve the question. Function is a topic where you have to, whether you like it or not, but you really have to dive deep into it to be able to fully understand the question and to be able to fully answer it. Anyway, state the range of g. So graphically we can see that this is the maximum value and we can see that it's getting closer and closer to 0 but not actually equal to 0. Okay, and it's never negative obviously. So let's find out the y-intercept. How can we find out the y-intercept? By simply plugging in 0 in place of x. So 1 upon 0 squared plus 2, that's equal to 1 upon 2. Can I watch your M1 videos in order to prepare for AS physics? Of course not, Pratav. M1 A physics. What kind of a stupid question is that? Anyway, so this is equal to 1 upon 2. Now, this is, you can see that the graph is getting closer and closer, but not actually equal to 0. So what's the final answer? The final answer is going to be greater than 0 and lesser than or equal to 1 upon 2. Okay, don't forget to write lesser than or equal to 1 upon 2 because the graph is actually equal to 1 upon 2. Okay, and it's also at the same time greater than 0. All right, let's see if there's another part. Yeah, there is. Let's see what this is. Sir, might be a gig. Acha, what's that? How long will the stream be? 1.5 or 2 hours. Why 0? Okay. Again, एक तो मुझे लगता है आप लोग अपना दिमाग को ना रीसेट फैक्ट्री रीसेट करके आ जाते हैं. ठीक है, कल ही सब बताया that if you plug in infinity, what happens? What's 1 upon infinity going to be equal to? 1 upon infinity will approach 0. Okay? But it's never actually going to be equal to 0. It's going to get closer and closer, but it's never actually going to be equal to 0. So that's why the answer is that g of x is greater than 0, lesser than or equal to 1 upon 2. Why not infinity? What do you mean, why not infinity? चलो हमने infinity plug in करके देख लिया. What happens as x gets greater and greater? The graph gets closer and closer to 0. Again, ये जो आप लोग सवाल पूछ रहे हैं ना, ये वो लोग सवाल पूछ रहे हैं जो concept पे focus नहीं कर रहे. I didn't complete part B. Oh yeah, it says find inverse. Okay, I'll do that. I'll find inverse. But you guys have to, I would strongly encourage you guys to watch the entire playlist of functions to basically better understand how functions is meant to be learned. Okay, I think you guys are relying too much on formulas, too much on tricks to answer a question. That's not possible. So then it says explain whether G inverse exists. Do you think it exists? What's the formula to check whether G inverse exists or not? What's the way to check? It's a horizontal line test. So will this function pass the horizontal line test? No, it doesn't. Okay, so there are so many ways that you can answer this question. You will say G inverse does not exist because G is not a one-to-one function. Okay, you can say that. You can say it does not pass the horizontal line test. You can say it fails the horizontal line test. So many ways to answer the question, okay? All right, part C. The function h is defined by h of x equals to 1 upon x squared plus 2 for x is greater than or equal to 0. Now, it's the same function, okay? Except that now it's called, they're calling it h of x, so don't get confused. It's the same function as the one above. Except that now it's greater than or equal to 0. Solve the equation h of f of x equals to f of 25 upon 16. Give your answer in the form of a plus b root c, where a, b, and c are integers. So this is less of a functions question. This is more of a surds question, okay? So you can give this question to anyone who doesn't know much about functions, will still be able to solve this. So first of all, h of f of x, okay? 45 mistake, or am I high? Is there a mistake here? Okay, I don't know what you're talking about. If there's a mistake, feel free to point it out. So h of x is equals to f of 25 upon 16. Okay, now let's see what we can do. Let's see if there's a shorter way to solve this. So, no, wait, they're not the same functions. They're different functions. G and h are the same, but f is different. Okay, so let me write down the function to make life easy. F of x is equals to square root of x minus 1. Okay, and h of x, that's written right in front of us. That's 1 upon x squared plus 2. Okay. And how about we start with finding out f of 25 upon 16. Okay, so let's work out f of 25 upon 16. I'll show you guys the working here so you can see how it's done. So make a habit of resetting your calculator as soon as you pick it up. So 1 upon make a bracket, make a fraction, write 25 upon 16, close the bracket, put a square, plus 2, f of, okay, sorry, my bad. This is supposed to go in f. Sorry. So f of, okay, for that I just realized I don't even need a calculator. So 25 upon 16 minus 1. So 25 upon 16, that would be 5 upon 4, and 5 upon 4 minus 1, so that's 1 upon 4. Okay, great. I thought this was supposed to go in function h. Anyway, now let's talk about h of f of x. So h of f of x basically means 1 upon square root of x minus 1, the whole thing square plus 2. Okay, now I wouldn't advise that you open this bracket. What I would advise is that you keep it as it is. So square root of x minus 1, the whole thing square plus 2, and you straight away set it equal to 1 upon 4, since that's what we're supposed to do. Okay, keep your eyes on the price. You're supposed to give the final answer as a plus b root c. Okay, now when you cross multiply, this is what you end up with. You end up with root x minus 1, the whole thing square plus 2 is equals to 4, which means root x minus 1, the whole thing square is equals to 4 minus 2, which is equal to 2. Okay, now what do? Let's take the square root on both sides. Now when you take the square root on both sides, remember, when you take the square root on both sides, you get a plus minus. Okay, so whenever we take the square root on both sides, we get a plus minus. So this square root and square cancel out each other. So we have root x minus 1, which is equal to under root 2. Okay, let's make root x the subject with a plus minus. So root x is equals to plus minus root 2 plus minus under root 2 plus 1. Now let's see, what do we know about x? We know that x is greater than or equal to 0. So that means I checked ms, so took 1 upon x squared as x squared. So let me know what question you're talking about. I'll figure it out if there's a mistake. So since the question says x is greater than or equal to 0, we'll only take the positive value. So we haven't answered the question yet. The question is saying, okay, find out the value of x. So for that, we square both sides. So now it's going to be 2 plus 2 under root 2 plus 1. Remember to use the identity. So x is equals to 3 plus 2 under root 2. Is this what the question wanted? As in, is this how the question wanted us to write the answer? I think it is. So that's the answer. Acha, what's the mistake? Question number 45. So it took 1 upon x square as x square. 45. 1 upon x square as x square. In which part? Abdullah, in which part do you think there's a mistake? Oh yeah, you're right. Okay. So, sahi to bol raha hai bechara. There is a mistake here. Okay, let me fix this. Thank you for pointing that out. So basically, y minus 4 is equals to 2 upon x square. X square is equals to 2 upon y minus 4. That means x is equals to plus minus square root of 2 upon y minus 4. And then lastly, remember, since it's f inverse, so the plus minus rule still applies. It's going to be minus, so minus of 2 over square root of x minus 4. Okay, so thank you for pointing that out, Abdullah. I appreciate it. Okay, and the plan B and everything else, that part still applies. Okay, so plan B still applies. All right, now, so we're done with that question. Let me find out a slightly more difficult question. 43. Yeah, let's do this question. Let's see what this says. So the functions f and g are defined by, I think this is a very recent question. Yeah, February, March 2024. The functions f and g are defined by trig questions. Okay, let me see if there are any trig questions. We'll do those also. This PDF contains all questions from 2018 to 2024, with the exception of March 2025. Okay, so let's see what this question says. वजह hard questions के topical screen से mistakes की वजह से रह जाता है solve it composite. Okay. The functions f and g are defined for all real values of x by so and so. Given that the range of g of f of x is greater than or equal to 39, find the value of k. Okay, I remember this was a tricky question. So g of f of x. First, let's figure that out. Okay, so g of f of x basically means that we plug in f in function g, which means 3 times. We plug in function f in function g. Yeah, so that means 5 times, bracket open, 3x minus 2 the whole thing square plus k. So this is multiplied by 5. Keep that in mind. And don't forget the minus 1 as it is. So g of f of x, let's simplify it further. So this becomes 5 into 3x minus 2 the whole thing square plus 5k minus 1. Okay. Now what does this look like? So who can tell me how to answer this question? Don't give me the answer, just tell me how to answer this question. What does this look like? And notice that the question has given us the range of this function. So can you identify the range of this function just by looking at the way it is? As completing square method, that's correct. So it is already in completed square form. Okay, it is already in completed square form. So this is a x minus h the whole thing square plus k, except don't confuse the k with the k that they have used. Basically the coordinates of the turning point are going to be 2 upon 3 comma 5k minus 1, and remember that this is a minimum curve. Okay, so that means if I were to write down the range of g of f of x, that would be greater than or equal to 5k minus 1. Okay, 5k minus 1 is basically the y coordinate of the turning point. That's correct. And according to the question, the range of g of f of x is greater than or equal to 39. So that means 5k minus 1, which is the y coordinate of the turning point, is the one that's greater than or equal to 39. Now let's solve this. So 5k equal to 39 actually, not greater than or equal to 39. So 5k is equals to 40, and what's k is equal to? K is equals to 8. Okay, so I repeat. When you find out g of f of x, the function turns out to be in completed square form. And we can see that the y coordinate of the turning point is 5k minus 1. So if you have a minimum curve with this as your turning point, so that means the range would be greater than or equal to 5k minus 1. So the range that's given us in the question must be equal to this. 5k minus 1 must be equal to 39, and then you solve and you get the answer. There you go. Part B. For this value of k, determine the range of fg. Okay. Earlier we found gf, now we're supposed to find fg. So let's find out fg of x first of all. So fg of x would be 3 times, bracket open, 5x minus 1 minus 2 the whole thing square plus k. अच्छा, अब मजे की बात, we don't really have to expand and simplify this. This becomes entirely irrelevant. Why? Because all you have to focus on is what's inside. Okay, so everything that's outside just becomes totally irrelevant. You just have to focus on what's outside. And because it's already in completed square form. So because it's already in completed square form, if you want, you can still simplify it, but it's really not going to help. So it's going to be 15x minus 3 minus 2, the whole thing square plus 8. So this becomes 15x minus 5, the whole thing square plus 8. So what would be the range? Again, compare this with completed square form. So you can see that the range is, the coordinates of the turning point are 1 upon 3 comma 8. So the range would be greater than or equal to 8. There you go. All right. Now, any other part? Yes, there is. The function h is defined for all real values. Okay. And is such that g of h of x is equals to 35x plus 19. Find an expression for g inverse of x, hence or otherwise, find an expression for h. Okay, so you're given g of h of x is equals to 35x plus 19. Okay, and what you're supposed to find is h of x. Okay, can you go up? Yeah, sure I can. There you go. Achha, while you guys are copying that, answer this question. What happens when you take a function across the equals to sign? If you take a function across the equals to sign, what happens? Question for you guys. If you have a function, let's say sine x equals to 0.5, and you want the value of x. So sine, if you take it across the equals to sign, it becomes inverse. Very good. So keep that in mind. Okay, it becomes inverse. Yeah. Okay, so with that in mind, here's a question for you guys. Remember, we're supposed to find h of x. So that means from this expression, somehow I need to isolate h of x. So how about this? How about I take g across the equals to sign? So here's what I was saying. Let's say sine x is equals to 0.5. Okay, x ki value chahiye. So when a function goes across the equals to sign, what happens? It becomes inverse. Correct? Let's say you're given cos x is equals to 0.8. So cos, because cos is a function, when you take it across the equals to sign, it becomes inverse. Correct? Let's say you're given g of x equals to 5. So x can also be written as g inverse of 5. When you take a function across the equals to sign, it becomes inverse. Now, if you want h of x, that means somehow you need to get rid of this g from here. Correct? If you want h of x, that means somehow, however, you have to get rid of g of x. So how about this? How about I take g of x across the equals to sign? Kya khayal hai? So if I take g across the equals to sign, isn't that going to be g inverse of 35x plus 19? Kya khayal hai? And the good news is that we've already figured out g inverse. Have we? Have we figured out g inverse? No, we haven't. Okay, but koi baat nahi. It's a 3-mark question. We can find out g inverse, no problem. So g of x is equals to 35x plus 19. Y is equals to 35x plus 19. Let's make x the subject. You can do it in one step. Y minus 19 upon 35 is equals to x, which means, look at the amount of space you're given. You're given plenty of space, which means g inverse of x is equals to x minus 19. No, wait a minute. That's not g of x. वो मैंने गलत ले लिया. Yeah. g of x तो ये है ही नहीं. Sorry, my bad. g of x is equals to 5x minus 1. 5x. Okay, ये तो और भी आसान हो गया. Y is equals to 5x minus 1, which means y plus 1 upon 5 is equals to x, and there you go. This is g inverse of x, which is equal to x plus 1 upon 5. Now remember, h of x is equal to, remember this. Okay. And now if you want h of x, all you have to do is plug in 35x plus 19 plus 1 as it is upon 5. ठीक है, तो ये पूरा x था. अब x की जगह 35x plus 19 plus 1 upon 5 आ गया. So that means h of x is now equal to 35x plus 20 upon 5, and you can now simplify it. So when you simplify, here's what you get. 35 upon 5, that's equal to 7x. 20 upon 5, that's equal to 4. So here we have h of x, which is equal to 7x plus 4. Good question, right? Aren't these concepts required for O-levels as well? No. If you're an O-level student, please don't waste your time here. You have bigger fish to fry. Go watch O-level videos. Or just do something else. So why do you do YouTube? Is solely to help students? No, it's not for YouTube money. My channel is not monetized anymore. I do it because I like it. Simple as that. So I did different method but got the same answer. Yeah, there is another method to do it. You can actually use comparison. because they're both linear functions, right? So you can take h of x to be equal to ax plus b, and you can do it like that also. Sir, a question, doesn't x plus 1 multiply? No, it doesn't multiply. It doesn't multiply. You're plugging it in, so it's not multiply. Sir, I'm done, but how can... Okay. Can I write it like this? But आप A levels में कैसे पहुँचे? मुझे ज़रा ये बताएं. How did you reach A levels? If you're asking me this question, which I don't have a problem answering, but I'm just curious. How did you make it all the way here? Okay, I hope this answers your question. Okay. Let's do this question. This seems like a tricky one. Let's do this. Now, this is question number 44 of the worksheet. Okay. Let's see what this says. Function f is defined by so and so for x belongs to the set of all real values. Okay. By completing the square, find the range of f. So 10 plus 6x minus x squared. Now, how do you want to bring it in completed square form? That's obviously up to you. But just make sure that you are using a method which doesn't take a lot of time. Okay. So x squared minus 6x, leave a bit of space, then write the plus 10. Now, what do you have to add? You add you add basically the square of something and you subtract the square of something as well. Now, how do you decide that? You look at the coefficient of x. If that's 6, you divide that by 2. So you add the square of 3 and you subtract the square of 3. So this part of the expression becomes x minus 3 the whole thing square. Don't forget the minus 9. Don't forget that there is a minus waiting outside, and don't forget that there is a 10 waiting on the other side. Okay, so minus x minus 3 the whole thing square plus 9 plus 10. What does that look like? That looks like minus x minus 3 the whole thing square plus 19. Not bad. Achha, we're also supposed to find the range. Now, please take my advice and make a rough sketch, because you never know, this rough sketch might come in handy in the following part, and you will find this time and again in the examiner report that the examiners encourage students to make a rough sketch. Okay, yes, it's not graded, as in you don't get any marks for it, but it just gives you a better perspective. Now, this is a maximum curve with turning point coordinates as 3, 19, which means the range of this function f of x would be lesser than or equal to 19. ठीक है, मैं in fact एक काम करता हूँ. I just hope I can find out the examiner report and show you guys what I mean. Just a minute, don't go anywhere. May, June 2024, ER. Okay, now first of all, I'd like you guys to read this also. The question paper contains a statement in the rubric on the front cover that no marks will be given for unsupported answers from a calculator. This means that clear working must be shown to justify solutions, particularly in syllabus such as quadratic equations and trigonometric equations. In the case of quadratic equations, for example, it would be necessary to show factorization, use of the quadratic formula, or completing the square as stated in the syllabus. Using calculators to solve equations and writing down only the solution is not sufficient for certain marks. Okay, so let me highlight this as well, okay, because I get lots of questions like these, that if you just use the calculator to give the answer, don't expect full marks. But what you can do is this, okay, but there's still a way out. There is still a way out. So let's read this further, by the way. Using calculators to solve equations and writing down only the solution is not sufficient for certain marks. When factorizing, candidates should ensure that the factors always expand to give the coefficient. Okay, now you can still be smart about it. What you can do is write the quadratic formula with the values plugged in, and then you can use your calculator to give the final answer. Okay, so please make sure that you guys make a note of this, that don't just use your calculator to get the final answer. You're supposed to show your working as well. अच्छा, मैं आप लोगों को दिखा रहा था एक important चीज़ where the examiner says that you're supposed to make a rough sketch. So I just hope I can find it. It's paper 1, variant 3. No. Just a minute. I just hope I can find it. Okay, so another very important thing to note. So this is basically the examiner report of the question that I was solving. Okay, the negative coefficient of x square caused problems for some candidates who resolved this by changing the sign of every term. Candidates are reminded to then apply the reverse procedure to their result. Nevertheless, many correct completed square forms were seen. The correct range was not always quoted from a correct completed square form. Sketches which might have helped were rarely seen. Okay, so this is for you guys. Please make a note of this, that you are supposed to make a rough sketch because it's something that's going to help you. Okay, so please don't be lazy. Don't think that you're only going to do something that you're asked to do. Make sure to do something which you think is going to help you answer the question. Okay, and this is particularly true for equations of circles. This is true for finding range also. Okay, so I hope that's clear. Now, let's move on. Let's do part B. Let's see what part B says. It's best to do it for range. It only helps. It's good for equation of circles as well. I was solving an equation of circle question, which if you make a rough sketch, you are only then able to understand how it works. Otherwise, you won't. Okay, now, the function g is defined by g of x equals to so and so. It is given that the graph of y is equals to g inverse of x meets the graph of y is equals to g of x at a single point. Determine the coordinates of P. Okay, how do we solve this? So how did you know it's a maximum? I have forgotten it. Okay. How do we know it's a maximum? Anyone who'd like to answer this on my behalf? Is there any way we could contact you to ask questions when you're not live? You can message on Instagram. Okay, I try to respond, but I don't guarantee it. But yeah, you can reach out to me on Instagram. Achha, the way that we know that it's a maximum graph is by looking at the coefficient of x square. If it's minus, it's a sad face. If it's positive, it's a happy face. Anyway, so let's find out g inverse of x. Okay, so we equate this to y. Y is equals to 4x plus k. That means y minus k upon 4 equals to x. Now let's write this nicely. This is g inverse of x. And that's equal to x minus k upon 4. Let's make sure of that. Remember to check as you go along because you may not have. Yes, Safiya, that's actually a good idea, that I can simply make it equal to x and then solve. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. But so now that we have found g inverse of x, let's carry on. Now, g of x meets g inverse of x. So what are we going to do? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to equate g of x to g inverse of x. Okay. So g of x is 4x plus k. And this is equal to x minus k upon 4. Okay. Now, let's see what we can do. If we cross multiply, what happens? We have 16x plus k equals to x. Okay, so here's what we can do. Let's cross multiply. So we have 16x plus 4k is equals to x minus k. Now let's get all the x's on one side. Okay, let's get all the x's on one side and then see what happens. So if you get all the x's on one side, then this is what you end up with. 16x minus x is equals to 4k plus is equals to 4k minus 4k plus k, or let's take it across the equals to sign. So that's minus 5k. So that means 15x is equals to minus 5k. And achha, what are we supposed to do? The question says it is given that the graph of y is equals to... Achha, oh, wait a minute. It said g inverse of f of x. Sorry, my bad. I didn't see the f of x part. My bad. I thought it's g inverse of x. Sorry, my bad. I thought the question said that the graph of g inverse of x meets the graph of g of x. Sorry. So we have g inverse of x. Let's find out. Let's see what f of x is. Here's f of x. Let's write it down. F of x मैंने देखा ही नहीं. So f of x is equal to 10 plus 6x minus x square. 10 plus 6x minus x square. Now, let's find g inverse of f of x. Okay. अच्छा, मेरा एक और बेहतर आइडिया आया, ठीक है, बट एक काम करते हैं. Now that I've started doing this, let's do it this way and then I'll give you an alternative way. Yeah, then I'll give you an alternative way also. Okay. So g inverse of f of x, that means 10 plus 6x minus x square minus k upon 4. Okay, so this is g inverse of f of x, which is equal to 10 plus 6x minus x square minus k upon 4. Now this, according to the question, meets what? This is equal to g of x. Okay, so I'm going to now equate it to g of x, which is basically equal to 4x plus k. Let's cross multiply. So we have 10 plus 6x minus x square minus k is equals to 16x plus 4k. I know you guys are thinking that there is another way to do it. I'll do it that way also. Since I started it with this way, let's complete it. Now let's get all the terms on the right hand side. Now when you get all the terms on the right hand side, you have positive x square. Then you have 16x minus 6x, so that's equal to 10x. Keep that in mind. Then you have 4k plus k, so that's equal to 5k, and don't forget the minus 10 equals to 0. Now because the question says that it meets at a single point, so that means you will find out the discriminant and set it equal to 0. So b square minus 4ac is equal to 0. So b is 10. 10 squared minus 4 into 1 into 5k minus 10 equals to 0. So 100 minus 4 times 5, that's 20k, minus minus becomes plus 40. Does that make sense? Plus 40 equals to 0. Yes. Okay. So minus 20k is equals to minus 140. So minus minus cancel, 0 and 0 cancel, and k is equals to what? K is equals to 7. Now once you have the value of k, it's not the final answer. Remember, you're supposed to find out the coordinates of b. So you're going to take this value of k and you're going to substitute it back into the equation. So that means x square plus 10x plus 5 times 7, which is 35. 35 minus 10 equals to 0. So x square plus 10x plus 25 equals to 0. Solve this using middle term breaking. So you have x square minus 5x, sorry, plus 5x plus 5x plus 25 equals to 0. X into x plus 5 plus 5 into x plus 5. So it's a no-brainer that you will get one value of x to be equal to minus 5 and then find out the value of y. How will you find out the value of y? Just plug it in this equation with the value of k that you found. So y is equals to 4x plus 7. So y is equals to 4 times minus 5 plus 7, which means minus 20 plus 7, which is equal to minus 13. Achha, I've almost run out of space. So let's create some room here. Let's shift this here. So that means the final answer is minus 5 minus 13. These are the coordinates of P. Okay. Achha, ab ek kaam karte hain. I know some of you were saying that there is an easier way, and there is. I agree. It just didn't click at that point. So here it is. Here's an alternative method. Now, in the alternative method, I don't think you even need G inverse. So notice the question says G inverse of f of x meets the graph of g of x. So that means G inverse of f of x is equals to g of x. So here's what you can do. You can take this across the equals to sign. But I just realized it doesn't really make a world of a difference. So this would become g of x, which means g square of x. Okay, so g of x, which means that you will plug in function g in function g. So f of x is equals to 4 times 4x plus k, and this is equal to f of x, which is equal to 10 plus 6x minus x squared. So it doesn't make a world of a difference, but if this is what you thought about, this is how, if this is what came to your mind, then it's a perfectly legit method. Okay, and then you will end up with the same equation. Okay, so let's solve one of those trigonometry questions. I hope I can. Let me see if there's another one. Functions with trigonometry. Okay, so let's solve this question. No, not this one. Kangya, here. Let's see what this says. Sir, will you be doing transformation of trigonometric? Transformation I'm doing tomorrow, inshallah. Transformation I'm doing tomorrow. Okay. All right, let's see what this says. The diagram shows the graph y is equals to f of x, where the function f is defined by so and so. On the diagram above, sketch the graph of y is equals to f inverse of x. Now, remember, f inverse of x means that you will reflect everything. This is question number 39. Everything will be reflected along the line y equals to x. Simple as that. Okay. So a good idea would be to first draw the line y is equals to x. So that means it's going to be a line that's going to pass where every x coordinate will be equal to every y coordinate. So here it is. Okay. Now, let's analyze every single point. So this point is where x is 0 and y is slightly less than pi. So that means when you reflect it, x will be slightly less than pi, y will be 0. Okay, so this point gets reflected here. This point gets reflected here. Okay, let's take maybe one more point. So this point looks nice. This point is where this is in between pi and 3 upon 2 pi. Okay, and this is very close to 3 upon 2 pi. So that means when you reflect this point, it's going to be somewhere over here. When you reflect it, it's going to be somewhere over here. So in between pi and 3 upon 2 pi. So in between pi and 3 upon 2 pi. So perhaps it's going to be somewhere over here. Okay. Or maybe slightly, since it's slightly less than 3 upon 2 pi. So maybe it's going to be somewhere over here. Somewhere over here. Okay. And don't forget that there will be a point on the line y equals to x. This is where both the graphs are equal. And there you go. And also don't forget about this point. Okay, don't forget about this point. Just reflect it. And remember, it's a sketch at the end of the day. Okay, so don't lose your mind over it. It's a sketch at the end of the day. Ultimately, the two graphs should look like they are mirror images of one another. Do the two graphs look like they're mirror images of one another? Yes, they do. Simple as that. Okay. Now, find an expression for f inverse of x. All right, so let's do that. Let's find an expression for f inverse of x. So y is equals to 3 plus 2 sine 1 upon 4x. Okay. So let's make x the subject step by step. Let's look at the amount of space that we're given. We're given plenty of space. So y minus 3 upon 2 is equals to sine 1 upon 4x. Okay, let's take sine across the equals to sign. So you have sine inverse of y minus 3 upon 2 is equal to 1 upon 4x. Let's make x the subject. So x is equals to 4 sine inverse of y minus 3 upon 2. And then do not forget that f inverse of x is equals to 4 sine inverse of x minus 3 upon 2. That's it. Job done. Okay. Now, let's see. Just realized that there's supposed to be a part C of this question as well. Just a minute. There's got to be a part C of this question. So this is from May, June 2023, paper 12. Achha, this is a transformation question. Okay. Never mind. All right. Let's do some more questions. We have time. Should AdMath students use this? No, I don't recommend AdMath students to do this, to watch this, because there will be a dedicated stream for AdMaths also. You guys don't have to worry about it. After transformation functions, what will we do? So most likely differentiation integration. Okay, so the next stream, tomorrow inshallah, I will be streaming transformation of functions. And then after that, I will be streaming differentiation or integration. Okay, now, state the range of f. Anyone would like to solve this question? Anyone who would like to solve this question? Sir, P3 vectors, please. Acha, chale, let's see. I hope I can find the time to do that. So what would be the range of f? Did you cross 10 million views? Yeah, I did. I think I did. I got an email. So do you have such worksheets for all topicals and variants? Are they on No, Fatma, I don't. These worksheets are being compiled as we speak. When I stream differentiation, you will get a differentiation worksheet. When I stream transformation, you'll get a transformation worksheet. X is greater than 2, that's the domain. That is the domain. Okay. So here's what we can do. Nope, not greater than 2. Once again, you have to get friendly with the function. Now, what do you expect this to be? If you plug in a value always greater than 2, then what do you expect this to be? This will always be positive. So that means ultimately you are adding a positive value in 1. Okay, so ultimately it's always something that's being added to 1. Now, if let's say this is maybe 2.0001, then what will happen is you will get, this will become a very large value, okay? And this will basically become infinity. Okay, the overall result will become a very large value or almost as close as infinity. So the answer to this is simply going to be f of x is greater than 1. That's it. Okay, iske piche working kya? Remember, you have to get friendly with the function. So let's plug in 2. I know we're not supposed to plug in 2, but just for the sake of understanding the concept, let's plug in 2. So 2 minus 2, that's going to be 0. So that means it's equal to infinity. And if you plug in a really large value, suppose infinity, then what happens? It's 3 upon infinity, and this is equal to 0, which means ultimately this approaches 1. Okay, so this approaches 0, and the overall value is equal to 1. So that means you're always in between infinity and 1. Okay, and it can't be equal to 1 because there is no such thing as infinity. I mean, even if you divide it by a very large value, it is going to be what? It's still going to be a very small number, but never equal to 0. So that's why the overall value is greater than 1. Okay. Obtain an expression. How do we imagine asymptotes of some such functions? You can imagine asymptotes of such functions, but it's not going to help. Okay, it's not going to help. Okay. Obtain an expression for f inverse of x and state the domain. Okay, so I think we all can do this question. Y is equals to 1 plus 3 over x minus 2. So we have y minus 1 is equals to 3 upon x minus 2. Let's swap places of y minus 1 and x plus x minus 2. So x minus 2 is equals to 3 upon y minus 1. That means x is equals to 3 upon y minus 1 plus 2. And then the final answer, which will be f inverse of x, is equals to 3 upon x minus 1 plus 2. And don't forget that when you're writing down the domain, what's the domain of f inverse going to be? That's going to be the same as range of f. And what's the range of f? We found it to be greater than 1. So that means here x is greater than 1. That's it. How many more questions? That's a good question. Let's do a couple more. Let's do 1 or 2 more. Now part C, the function g is defined by so and so for greater than 0. Obtain a simplified expression for g of f of x. Okay, so let's write down g of x, which is equal to 2x minus 2. Let's rewrite f of x, which is equal to 1 plus 3 over x minus 2. Okay, now what does the question want? The question wants g of f of x. That means you're going to take function f and plug it in function g. So g of f of x is going to be 2 times 1 plus 3 upon x minus 2 minus 2. Okay, now because the question wants a simplified expression, we're going to go ahead and simplify it. So this will be 2 plus 2 times 3, which is 6 over x minus 2 minus 2. So minus 2 cancels. So we have 6 over x minus 2. as the simplified expression for g of f of x. All right, not bad. बेटा ट्रिक के जो क्वेश्चंस है ना वो हम करेंगे ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन में, क्योंकि ट्रिक नॉर्मली आता है ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन के साथ. ठीक है, अभी एक काम करते हैं. लेट्स सॉल्व दिस क्वेश्चन. Okay, and then after this we'll solve the February March question and that's it. So it says function f and g are defined by so and so. Find an expression for f inverse of x. Okay, so y is equals to x plus a the whole thing square minus a. Let's make x the subject step by step. So y plus a is equals to x plus a the whole thing square. Don't forget that when you are taking the square root on both sides, there's got to be a plus minus. So x plus a is equals to plus minus square root of y plus a. Then let's make x the subject. So while I'm doing this, I'd like you guys to tell me what should be what sign are we going to go with? Are we going to go with plus or minus? Y plus a minus a. Here you can't use plan B. Okay, so you have to use the other method. F inverse of x is equals to plus minus square root of x plus a minus a. So are we going with plus or minus? What do you guys suggest? We're going to go with minus. That is correct. Sir, can you do a sum which requires us to find the range of... We're going to go with minus. Why? Because remember, f inverse of x must be lesser than or equal to minus a. And for that to happen, for the range of this function to be less than minus a, remember I told you guys that what you can do is you can write the constant first to make your life easy. So minus a plus minus square root of x plus a. And then ask yourself, if you want the end result to be lesser than or equal to minus a, which sign would you like here? If you want the overall value to be less than minus a, so that means you must subtract something from minus a. So that means the sign that we're going to go with is minus sign. Okay, so remember, sometimes it's just logic and common sense that you need to use in order to answer a question. Okay, don't always look for a formula, don't always look for a trick. Okay, now state the domain of f inverse. So what do you think will be the domain of f inverse? The domain of f inverse depends on the range of f. So what would be the range of f? The range of f would be greater than or equal to minus a, because that's what the y coordinate of the turning point is. It's a minimum curve and the coordinates of the turning point are a comma minus a, and therefore the range would be greater than or equal to minus a, which would be the domain of f inverse, greater than or equal to minus a. State the range of f inverse, so we've already figured that out. We saw that f inverse of x must be lesser than or equal to minus a. That's it, easy stuff. Achha, there's more to it. Let's finish this and then I will do the February March question. Given that a is equals to 7 upon 2, solve the equation g of f of x equals to 0. Okay. G of f of x equals to 0. Okay. So g of f of x is equals to 2x plus a, the whole thing square, minus a, minus 1. Okay. So you have 2 bracket x plus a, the whole thing square, minus 2a, minus 1. And what's that equal to? That's equal to 0, according to the question. No, wait a minute. What does the question say? Acha, a ki value hame di hai. Sorry. Okay. So way I was wondering, how are we going to solve this? So since we're given the value of a, which is 7 upon 2, let's plug it in. So x plus 7 upon 2, the whole thing square, minus 2 into 7 upon 2 minus 1 equals to 0. Okay. Just a second. All of a sudden it just stops responding. Anyway, so this 2 and this 2 cancel. So we have 2. Now be smart about it. Don't expand because we don't really need to. So here's minus 7 minus 1, which is equal to minus 8, by the way. equals to 0. So now when you make x plus 7 upon 2, the whole thing square the subject, that's going to be 8 upon 2, which is equal to what? Which is equal to 4. Then you take the square root on both sides, and whenever you take the square root on both sides, remember what happens? You have a plus minus. That means this is equal to plus 2, or x plus 7 upon 2 is equal to minus 2. Now let's solve for the value of x. 2 minus 7 upon 2. 2 minus 7 upon 2. What's that equal to? Minus 3 upon 2. Okay, and what's the next value of x? The next value of x is minus 2 minus 7 upon 2. That's equal to minus 11 upon 2. Are we going to go with both values, or are we going to give one value? Let's see. Let's see if the domain tells us anything. The domain says that x is lesser than or equal to minus a. So that means we're going to give the value which is lesser than or equal to minus 7 upon 2. Now, which value is lesser than or equal to minus 7 upon 2, which by the way is 3.5. So which value is lesser than minus 3.5? Not this value. It's going to be minus 11 upon 2. ठीक है, तो इस चीज़ का खास ख्याल रखना है. Make sure that you filter out the value that you're supposed to give. If you just give both answers, expect the examiner to cut 1 mark. Any chance you are planning to upload AdMaths vector stream? Yeah, I am planning to do AdMaths vector stream. AdMaths की मुझे इतनी टेंशन नहीं है. AdMaths का पेपर कब है? 16th को है ना? 16th को AdMaths का पेपर है. Can anyone confirm? 16th को है ना? Lesser than or equal to, yeah. 16th and I think 27th or 29th. So since there's time in AdMaths, I will be streaming all the important topics. Okay, I'm doing integration area under the curve tomorrow for AdMaths, and I'll be streaming 19th and 27th. Yeah, so there's plenty of time. So how can I increase my marks in S1? See what are the topics you're losing marks in and work on those topics. It's really as simple as that. Let's now. Is AdMaths harder than IGCSE? What kind of a question is that? But IGCSE कोई subject थोड़ी है. Okay, IGCSE is not a subject, so I don't know what you mean by that. So let me just open up the February-March paper. वो solve करते हैं and then that's it. So here's a bonus question for you guys. Sir, we love you. Okay, I appreciate that. Sir, does your old AdMath vector videos? Yeah, my old AdMath vector videos cover not just the entire topic. I think I've done multiple past paper streams on it as well. Sir, when will you upload the next part? Today, inshallah. Today. Sir, मैंने S1 set से complete करने की कोशिश की थी, लेकिन नहीं हुआ. Do you think 2 weeks ज़्यादा करना worth है? Set से complete करने की ज़रूरत की थी. I don't know what you mean by that. Khair, anyway. Let's solve this question. Let's see what this is. अच्छा, just a minute. मैं इसका barcode हटा दूँ. Just a minute. Okay, now, so I don't know, I'm not too sure, but I think my channel basically got a strike. It happened a year ago, but when I discussed it with a couple of people, so they said that maybe it's because of the barcode that they can detect what paper you're solving. And it got a strike because I solved the February-March 2024 paper. I don't know if this happened last year or the year before that, but I basically solved a paper which was not publicly available. So I think they figured it out because of the barcode. Anyway, now let's solve this. So it says functions f and g are defined for all real values of x by so and so. So you're given f of x, you're given g of x. Yeah, I thought about that, but मैंने जल्दी में इसको green कर दिया. खैर, where c and k are positive constants, it is given that g inverse of 3k plus 1 is equals to c, so that g of f of x is equals to 8x square minus k minus 1. Okay, now let's see what we can do. So g of f of x is equal to 8x square minus k minus 1. Now notice that we're given g of x and we're given g inverse of 3k plus 1. Okay, so how does that work? We're given g of x and we're given g inverse of 3k plus 1. So we have an option where we find out the inverse of g of x, but that's going to take a while. So instead what we can do is we can take g inverse across the equals to sign, and we know exactly how that works. If you take an inverse function across the equals to sign, it just becomes a normal function. Yeah, I think we did this in the past paper session. Yes. So 3k plus 1 is equals to g of c, which means 2c plus k. Okay. And notice the question says g of f of x. Okay, so g of f of x means that now we're supposed to plug in function f in function g. Okay, now before I do that, if you plug in function f in function g, notice कि वो क्या बन जाता है? वो बन जाता है 2 into 4x square minus c plus k. So this is what g of f of x becomes. 8x square minus 2c plus k. But then, if you look at this, this is in terms of k. Okay, if you look at this, this is in terms of k. This is in terms of k and c. So that means what we can do is, with the help of this equation right here, we can make c the subject. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. 3k minus k is 2k. So 2k plus 1 is equals to 2c. Now let's make c the subject. So c would be equal to 2k plus 1 upon 2. Now actually a good idea would be to just make 2c the subject and plug it in as it is. But now that I've made c the subject, so let's go on with it. So 8x square minus 2 multiplied by 2k plus 1 upon 2 plus k. So 2 and 2 cancel. And now we have 8x square minus 2k minus 1 plus k. Make sure to take care of the sign. So you have 8x square minus k minus 1. That is what g of f of x is equal to. There you go. Job done. Hi sir, will I get world topper over my friend? All right. Achha, there is a follow-up part of it which involves transformation, but that inshallah I'll do in the transformation stream. Okay. So I think kya ta kafi hai. I do encourage you guys to solve the rest of the questions. Okay. Remember to not look for shortcuts for topics such as functions, for topics such as trigonometry. Shortcuts are not going to help. Okay. So you have to dive deeper and you have to understand the topic to be able to fully make sense of every single question. Okay. So tomorrow inshallah at either 3:30 or at either 5:30 I am streaming. Let me find out. At 5:30 tomorrow I am streaming transformation. So make sure to tune into that. Okay. So I'll stop here. See you guys tomorrow. Take care everyone. Allah Hafiz.